I'm standing in Section 4F of the Simba parking lot at the Disneyland Resort, one of the future sites of the Disneyland Forward expansion projects. And over the course of the next few decades, Disneyland will be building more theme park right here. And today I'm going to take you around this site and others to show you the reality of Disneyland Forward. What is it really? Where is it really? What should we really expect? New theme park, new hotels, new parking lots. Recently, the Anaheim City Council gave their final vote. Disney's request to change how the undeveloped properties they own are zoned has been approved. Now sites that were once strictly zoned for parking, like the one we're standing in now, can be transformed into beautiful, crowd-pleasing theme park space. Something fans of the Disneyland Resort have been long wishing for. More than anything, we want more Disneyland. There's this lot, the Simba Lot, the downtown Disney parking lot, and the Disneyland Hotel parking lots, and the Toy Story parking lot. And of course, there's this little bit of mystery right here, a slice of park that has me more than a little bit befuddled. We'll explore all of them, as all of them will undergo a transformation over the course of what is expected to be the next 4 decades. And now that the vote is in, we can finally start to let our imaginations fly a little bit. And we're going to start right here at the Simba parking lot. Today, this lot is used primarily for those guests who are trying to visit downtown Disney and for cast members who are working at, let's say, DCA or in one of the hotels or in downtown Disney itself. But we do have concept art that will help us visualize what this space will be. And we'll start by getting our bearings in terms of what is real in that concept art and what is concept. For example, that's the Pixar Place Hotel in the concept art, and it'll help us define the boundaries for what's going to happen in this lot, in the Simba Lot. That's the Disneyland Hotel. That's the Pixar Palace parking structure. And there's the monorail. So anything else that is bright and colorful, but also kind of vague and undefined, besides those spaces, that's future theme park. Our first boundary is here at the Pixar Place Hotel to your left there. That is Disneyland Drive. That and Catella make up the first corner of the future lot of this particular section. The DCA, what is assumed to be the DCA expansion side of that lot. It'll run across, the length of Disneyland Drive and then connect over there with Catella Avenue. Where I'm standing right now is approximately the lower left area, the lower left space of that big show building that runs alongside Catella or alongside Disneyland Drive. And it is pretty much the length of this stretch all the way over to the Pixar Place Hotel. So that means this stretch all the way here is going to be, well, according to the concept art anyway, we're going to let our imaginations work on this because we know that the concept art doesn't really mean anything, but that's what they're envisioning is a show building the size of this space that we're looking at right now. Everything that's in frame is all show building. That's Rise of the Resistance size, that's, Radiator Springs size type show building. We'll keep making our way down to the corner and head towards the space that runs alongside Catella Avenue. That's the stretch here. The Anaheim Convention Center is just on the other side of those trees. About a third of the way up is where the concept art is showing us a very Neverland-looking scene, a Peter Pan style mountain if I've ever seen one. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they're going to build, again, concept art, but that's what they're putting on this art. And I guess this is a good point to ask or to wonder if they've got this correct in terms of where stuff is going, because there is an issue with noise ordinance in this space. As the direction that we're heading is towards Walnut Avenue, which as we speak is at the very end of that stretch there where those palm trees are. On the other side of those trees are apartment buildings, residential. There is Walnut and Catella, and where Walnut will now start to run this length, and those trees, etc., there define that boundary. We've mentioned in previous videos that the city of Anaheim requires a minimum amount of distance before Disney can start constructing theme park in order to create a sound barrier between the residential tracks and the theme park or entertainment tracks, entertainment lots. So I'm not sure what, where that would be exactly, because it may or may not include Walnut Avenue, but just understand that automatically reduces the size of available space for theme park in this side, which is why I was thinking maybe they would rather put that big show building on this end as opposed to the end on Disneyland Drive, because Disneyland Drive does not have the same sound ordinance. Those sound barriers exist only where there is residential on the other side. Likewise, if you were to go over here to Incredicoaster and Radiator Springs Racers further down Catella towards Harbor Boulevard, they run right up against Catella, because on the other side of Catella is just the Anaheim Convention Center. Likewise, does not have any sort of noise or sound ordinance attached to it. They can build right up against the street. So it would seem logical to me as a lay person just standing out here in the middle of the Simba parking lot that where I'm standing now, this should be the show building, the big show building. What could it be though? I feel like the first thing that they need to build is Pandora, is Avatar Land, the Avatar experience. I feel like that's the first thing that they should be building in terms of any kind of expansion, theme park wise. That's the thing that they've been hanging their hat on. They've been talking about. They're like, we've got plans. We're going to do this thing. It's going to come. They've been selling that. So I feel like, because I don't believe that they're going to build, nobody believes really that they're going to build all of Disneyland Forward all at once. It's a 40-year project. So they're going to do this in stages. They're going to open up maybe one land at a time. If I had to predict, I would say it makes sense to open the Avatar experience first. And I like the idea of putting it here in Disneyland Forward as opposed to, let's say, converting the Hollywood backlot or Grizzly River or Grizzly Peak, pardon me, because of, well, a myriad of other issues, but just simply it's the easiest, cleanest way to build a really good land as opposed to trying to reshape an existing land. I don't like those ideas very much. I mean, they've done okay in the past, but they've also failed as well. So if you're going to build Avatar, I feel like you need to give it 100% or more. And as such, I would like a nice, clean, fresh start right here in the Simba parking lot. So while we're here getting a fairly long view of the entirety of the Simba Lot, let's talk about what we have available. The Simba Lot is actually pretty big, plenty of room to do quite a bit of expansion. 25 acres approximately in total, although I would cut it up into two different sections because the way the Pixar Place Hotel sort of creates a boundary, and so you can't make like a simple rectangle, although nothing at Disneyland is built in a simple rectangle, I will add, or I will confess. So, but this space that we're looking at, totally about 25 acres in total. This rectangular section right here is about, as I'm looking at my handy dandy notebook, 17 acres. And then section 2, the section that goes towards the Disneyland Hotel and downtown Disney itself is about 7.5 acres. To put that in perspective, Galaxy's Edge in total is 14 acres. Cars Land is about 10.5 acres. Avengers Campus is about 6.5 acres. All of those, in terms of just the actual square footage or the acreage there, would fit in here and then some. You could fit probably two, I would say probably two lands in here, possibly three depending on how big you make them. Although I will say that it's most likely to, the building codes such as that they are, you can't build a land today like you could Fantasyland, let's say, with these tiny little dark rides. You just simply can't. Building codes require much more space provided, for a variety of reasons, but there's a minimum. Take a look at The Little Mermaid, for example, Ariel's Undersea Adventure. That's an example of a modern dark ride size. Radiator Springs Racers is a dark ride. Rise of the Resistance is a dark ride. It gives you an idea of the scale of things that are being built today. So I feel like two lands here is most likely. Probably one extending from the Disneyland Hotel to Catella and then bump that down a little bit and then back towards DCA for the second land. And if we're looking at the concept art for what it's worth, we can see that they are running this land or this space directly. They're using all of the parking lot space. As we're walking forward here towards the Disneyland Hotel, that is the Adventure Tower there in the concept art. They're putting expansion space right up to the end of this lot. So theme park extends across the street, heads towards the Disneyland Hotel, downtown Disney. It'll actually make a right turn, the actual theme park expansion, because there again is the Pixar Place Hotel and its parking structure. These would remain, so they would have to build around that and curve the space into that section, which is why I broke it up into those two sections. And then to kind of put a bow on this whole thing, what we're looking at right here, that's the entrance right there, as we mentioned earlier. That's where guests come into park. That's also probably where guests are going to cross the street from DCA. This is supposed to be an expansion of DCA. That's the idea anyway. So that, you know, they would build a path that would connect DCA through Disneyland Drive, either a bridge or a tunnel or something, who knows, and somehow the guests would find their way over here. For me, that's one of the more interesting, curious parts of this process is how do they connect these two lands, because there's quite a bit of space, there's quite a bit of distance that guests have to travel to get from, you know, Disneyland or DCA proper and get over here to the parking structures or to the parking lots, to the Simba Lot and to the downtown Disney parking lot. Neither one of those spaces are exactly close. Not just Disneyland Drive, but also all that backstage area, all that backstage space. DCA is probably going to connect, I'm guessing, where that fence is, the backstage fence where the parades come in and out of, with the big Pixar ball there. I'm assuming that's the beginning of that point, but you have to traverse to get from there to this side of the lot. You have to traverse a whole bunch of backstage space, and then you have to cross the street. It's going to be interesting. Let's continue this conversation on the other side of downtown Disney at the downtown Disney parking lot. Theme park, hotel, right here, it's all connected. Downtown Disney right here, or the path to it. A little bit of a mystery happening right here. We'll get to that. That is our second of 3 lots, expansion lots for Disneyland Forward. That's the downtown Disney lot here on your left. And then on the right is the lot for the Disneyland Hotel, separated by Downtown Drive. And I'm currently standing in section 6F of that downtown Disney parking lot, plotting that on the concept art. Once again, we're pretty much right in the middle of that show building in the lower right corner of that concept art. On the ground, it doesn't look like as much of a space as the Simba Lot, but it's actually, when you combine those two lots, it's actually bigger than the Simba Lot at 26 acres or around there. Other side of those trees is the Pixar Palace parking structure, and beyond that, the Mickey and Friends parking structure. There's the walking path. That, once more, is Disneyland Drive, same street that we saw parallel down there at the Simba Lot. And then on this side right here is Magic Way. This is the street that was the subject, Magic Way was the subject of a lot of debate with the city of Anaheim and the residents of this area. Disney wants to take over. They basically purchased this street. Although it is their land, they want to take over running it and close it off as part of the Disneyland Forward expansion. So that was a point where, you know, the residents were saying, no, we use Magic Way, and Disney's like, no, you don't. It's not very well trafficked. That's a conversation for another day. As we walk this length that parallels Disneyland Drive, you may not see it yet in the distance, but way up there is the downtown Disney monorail station, and that actually is one of the borders of this space, of this lot. We will not be, I don't think, well, certainly it's not going to be running into the monorail station there, but they could demo the Rainforest Cafe building there, the Star Wars trading post. This also, I believe, is approximately where they would try to connect this expansion with Disneyland. The idea being the Simba side would be DCA, this side would be Disneyland. On the other side of those trees, on the other side of Disneyland Drive, where you see that tram going by right there, that's the Splash Mountain show building. They would go backstage at Critter Country and then navigate that path through here in much the same way as they would at DCA. A lot of backstage areas then cross that street. That stretch of monorail track that you're looking at there is about ready to head back into the Disneyland Resort, back through downtown Disney. We're standing approximately right here where that track starts to turn left, just shy of where the monorail appears in that concept art, and it represents a boundary, the end of the expansion space. It would extend that way towards the parking structures, and in this direction towards the Disneyland Hotel. Moving from the downtown Disney parking lot past Downtown Drive, connecting with the Disneyland Hotel lot. This is the other half of that expansion space, and it's probably logical to imagine that one land here and one land over there. Again, most likely due to the fact that the way they build things today, you're looking at just 2 lands in this space. Which, just now as I contemplate that, I wonder if maybe they could squeeze a third into either one of these 2 sections, either one of these 2 lots. As I stand here, it looks quite enormous. It looks bigger than any space that you could find. Certainly any single land, obviously at Disneyland, but even any 2 lands. As I put my eyes on this space that I'm looking at right now, the Disneyland Hotel parking lot, easily I feel like you could fit Galaxy's Edge in here easily and have a little room to spare. So what if you built, let's say, 2 lands of 20 and 1 land of 6? Avengers Campus, as I'm looking at my notes, is 6.5 acres. Cars Land is 10.5 acres, approximately. So either you don't go for the super ultra big land like Galaxy's Edge, which is 14. And if you do that, then you are limited to just a second land in that space. Or you'd go 3 lands, all 3 of which would be in the Cars Land or Avengers Campus size range. As for the concept art, we're standing approximately in the back corner, the top right corner of the concept art. That's the Lilo parking lot today. Where we're facing now through that fence is that grassy mountainous area in that top corner. Looks like that's probably a show building as well for a bigger attraction. You know, something like Rise of the Resistance, where they have, you know, the entire show building is obscured by a very well placed mountain range. And then as we pan to the left, you can see a little bit of that mountain. And then what we're looking at right now is the convention center, the Disneyland Hotel Convention Center, which brings up an interesting observation. This is the Disneyland Hotel parking structure. We've already assumed how they're going to displace the guests that are parking at Downtown Disney. We've assumed how they're going to displace the guests parking at Simba. And we've already assumed where they're going to displace the guests that are parking at Toy Story, which we're going to get to later. All of that, supposedly, is going to be reallocated towards the Eastern Gateway project, a new parking structure that they're going to build on the other side of Harbor. What about the Disneyland Hotel guests? Because you can't bus them in. You can't park them at the Eastern Gateway and ask the Disneyland Hotel guests to hoof it all this way, nor can you valet every single one of those guests. I asked that question because when I look at that concept art, that building right there, which is presently the home of the convention space that they have here at the Disney Hotel, what they've drawn is a literal copy in terms of its design, you know, how it looks as the Pixar Palace parking structure. Could that be a parking structure just for hotel guests? We're going to keep heading back in this direction because I want to show you there's more. The limit to this property, the limit to this lot may extend past these trees. It just depends on how much they want to consume, how close they want to run the park to the Fantasy Suite or the Fantasy Tower, which is right there on the other side of those trees. Right here in frame would be that mountain range with the water features. If we pan to the right, that's approximately that building. Looks like something you might find at Epcot, like an Imagination Pavilion. And then just on the other side of that is the convention center. Could this be a parking structure? It sure looks like one in this concept art. So again, that brings me to my question about this little parking area here. Would they extend the theme park expansion even into this space? Would they run it right up against the Disneyland Hotel, the Fantasy Tower? They're doing that over on the Simba side, and this concept art isn't really clear about what their plans are, but certainly it's not a parking lot. I'll say that. What we're seeing in that concept art is not a parking lot. Toy Story parking lot, that's where we're at next. Lot 3 of the 3 parking lots that are subject to expansion for Disneyland Forward. We're standing presently in section 15B of the Woody section of the lot. This parking lot is so big. They have the Woody section, the Buzz section, the Jessie section, and the Bullseye section. And this lot, this space is enormous. So big, in fact, that I can't even get all of it into the frame in this one shot. I would have to go on the other side of that brick wall over there and capture Bullseye as well. Bullseye big enough by itself probably to hold Galaxy's Edge. All that's Woody over there. Buzz Lightyear over yonder. I mean, look at this. Look at all the space right here. That's Buzz. There's Jessie. And then there's the bag check and security, and then on the other side of that is even more space that they don't use. It's not even for parking for guests, it's for cast, etc. And then on the other side of that wall, just like I mentioned, is Bullseye. It is an impressive space, so much so that people would say, well, just think of the possibilities. The acreage here, 72 acres approximately, which compares almost exactly to the size of California Adventure. So what does Disney do in their concept art? Disney Springs. They're not even thinking theme park in that concept art. But that does seem like it would be a colossal waste of space, does it not? An opportunity the likes of which you probably will never get here in the Anaheim resort area. If Disney had plans to build a third park, a third gate, where else could they do it? They don't own enough land to make one, a continuous piece of property where they could put a whole theme park. It would be an opportunity wasted. So what is going on in that concept art? It's hard to say, but there's one thing that I think that a lot of folks are overlooking in that art that is a tell. And that is that while it looks like they're using all of this space, if you look closely at the borders of what the Toy Story lot is today, the Toy Story lot that comprises 72 acres worth of land, thereabouts, what's being used in this concept art is about half of that. The borders, take a look at the borders compared to the actual usable space, and it's closed in. They've given themselves an enormous amount of cushion on all four sides of this property where they're not using it. It's either backstage or I don't know what it is, but it's about 32 acres out of the 72. 32 acres are being occupied in that concept art. One big reason for that. This is the Jessie lot where we stand right now, and where I am right now is the furthest point that I can access in this lot. There's a berm and a fence, and beyond that is considerably more parking lot. You can see where they had endeavored to extend the Buzz Lightyear lot down there. They finished that space, but they have never actually used it. This is the furthest boundary of the Toy Story lot, and where we stand right now in this concept art is right here, which is obviously considerably well set inside the perimeter of the actual parking lot. Beyond that, you can see in the concept art and in the overhead photo the reason why they can't develop this entire space, and that is residential tracks. Beyond that large hedgerow that runs all the way over here and then back towards the rear section on that direction, beyond that hedgerow, large hedgerow, are residential homes. And as we alluded to in our conversation about the Simba Lot at the very beginning of this video, there are considerations that have to be made for those residential zones. You cannot just put theme park right up against the boundary of a residential tract. City of Anaheim has, sound ordinances, noise ordinances that Disney has to respect. So there has to be a cushion, a boundary, a limit to where they can build theme park. A problem that neither Disneyland nor DCA suffer from at all. 100% of the theme park space occupied presently by both DCA and Disneyland are within either retail or commercial zoned areas. That means there's no residential anywhere close to Disneyland or DCA. It is close to the Simba parking lot, to downtown Disney, but that's why downtown Disney and the parking structures and all that and the hotels are zoned differently than for theme park. So there is no chance, zero chance, that Disney could use all of those 72 acres. So you can't compare it evenly to DCA, for example, which everybody wants to make that connection because of the similar acreage. Now, mind you, DCA does have its own, inset. They have their own backstage areas, and you could probably use some of that. You could use backstage as part of that buffer, but I don't know if that completely solves the problem for Disney's purposes or not. The way I drew this one, I said this is approximately, I'm guessing, I'm a layperson, I don't really know, how things get, what the limits are, but I'm figuring maybe 50 acres of developable space, which is beyond the 32 that are being used in that concept art for the hotel. But even if you can't use it all, certainly you've got two spaces back there. You're putting 2, maybe 3 lands in the space occupied by the Simba Lot. You're putting 2, maybe 3 lands in the space occupied by the downtown Disney parking lot and the Disneyland Hotel parking lots. The sum of those 2 spaces is still just, 50 acres itself? So is 5 or 6 lands, does that constitute a theme park? Is 50 acres, is 2/3 of DCA enough to require a separate gate? That's a very good question. And it's something that is worth considering. And it's probably why Disney, they're going to take this space and they're going to put a hotel here. Let's talk about that, actually. Let's talk about what we can see in that concept art, because it's not real clear. But what you're seeing here is what basically they call a ground scraper as far as hotels go. They're skyscrapers, they build them up. Ground scrapers, they build out. Grand Californian is a groundscaper. Probably retail of some kind, probably something like downtown Disney. What the hotel is those buildings that comprise the perimeter. Those buildings here on the edge, over here on this top part of the lot here as well. That's actually, I'm guessing, the entrance. That's also approximately where the entrance is today for the Toy Story lot. But take, for example, this building right here. That's going to be backstage, not a hotel, not a visible property or a piece of space that guests can visit, but it is Toy Story lot. Same for this big building back here. So all that space back there is not being occupied or not being used, even though it is technically Toy Story lot. They're creating an enormous buffer between even the commercial sides of this lot and the actual concept art, the actual developed area. This might make things a little more clear. We're standing right now in the Buzz Lightyear lot. There's the entrance right here. There's the hotel that's on Harbor Boulevard right next to it. That's this building right there in this concept art. So it's not even anywhere near a developed space in that concept art. They are using all of this space right here as cushion. The entrance to the, whatever you want to call it, Disney Springs-like area doesn't even occur until right about here. And using that hotel as a reference as we pan to the left, that's where we can begin to see where we might find the first, on this edge of the perimeter, we might find our first example of actual hotel space. That curved structure right there would be obviously a wing of whatever hotel that they build. By the way, let's talk about that for a second. I mentioned the idea here is to build a ground scraper, a huge footprint for a hotel. To give you some perspective, the Grand Californian, which is considered a ground scraper, it's got a very large footprint, occupies a lot of space in that lot. The Grand Californian is 15 acres, which is roughly half the size of what they're exhibiting here in this concept art, and about a quarter, less than a quarter, of the total overall space available here in the Toy Story lot. So if we're to understand correctly, looking at this concept art, that their plan is to build a hotel that is twice the size of the Grand Californian, with included retail and probably some mixed use, some entertainment, but nothing in the way of theme park. And then there's the Bullseye parking lot. We have crossed the concrete wall there. Across the way there's the drop off and pickup for bag check for Toy Story lot, and then all of this is the Bullseye section. I mentioned earlier that you could probably fit, well, you could easily fit Galaxy's Edge just in that 1/2 of the Bullseye lot. It is a sizable space in and of itself, but it too suffers from a similar issue with regard to the residential zoning. Just on the other side of that lot right there, on the other side of that hedgerow, that's Hastur Street. And right over there is more residential zoning. In fact, if you look at the overhead, there is the lot that I'm standing in right now. Compare that to what we see in the concept art, and it's not on stage, it's backstage. It looks to me just like what we saw at the Disneyland Hotel site where the convention center is. That looks to me every bit like a parking structure. It looks like a parking structure to me, which again would make sense. Where else are you going to park those cars? Are you going to send them to the Eastern Gateway, which is something that we'll get to later, but it's nowhere near here. The Eastern Gateway is not close to or adjacent to this lot. So you have to park those hotel guests somewhere, and you can't do it at the Eastern Gateway. So it could be that I'm standing actually in a future parking lot. Again, that reduces the available size. You cannot put any theme park in the space that I'm standing in right now, according to the concept art. Right? Have I just complicated everything with regard to what we thought we knew about the Toy Story lot vis-a-vis its ability, the potential for it to be a third gate? Have I just ruined everything? I sure hope not, because I really want it to be a third gate. But you know what? Let's not even get into the fact that it is not connected in any meaningful way to the Disneyland Resort proper. It's not connected. There is a mile between these two lots. How are you going to get the guests, if we're going to call this a third gate, if you're going to be a park hopping, how are you going to get guests from here to Disneyland? I'd want to cross parks for sure, right? That's a resort. That's what you do at resorts. That's what they do at Walt Disney World. It's not easy, but at least it's easy in the sense that they don't have to navigate any city-owned property. They own everything in between Epcot and Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom. They own all that space. So you just take a bus or a ferry and it's easy, or a monorail. It's not easy to do. You can't just build a people mover or a monorail and connect this lot to the Disneyland Resort. It's not that easy. As a matter of fact, it's very, very difficult. And it's for that reason that I am maybe 10 or 20% in on third gate, and it is most likely going to be something like what we see in the concept art, some kind of ground scraper. They want it to be more than Grand Californian and retail. They want it to be beyond that, but it can't get all the way to. It would be difficult to get it all the way to theme park. Now, a little bit ago, I mentioned Gardenwalk, or I should say, I mentioned the Eastern Gateway, which is connected by the Gardenwalk. You have to go through the Gardenwalk to get in. On the other side of that is the Eastern Gateway. Let's take that walk real quick and show you how disconnected these spaces are. And just to get our bearings before we turn around, this is the Bullseye parking lot. On the other side of those trees is bag check for the Toy Story buses, and then it's Woody over here, Jesse over there, right? So we turn around, and right behind us is Catella Avenue. If you've ever parked at the Toy Story lot in the Bullseye parking lot, you've probably made this walk before. It's the way I go when I'm parking at at Bullseye, and I want to walk it in. You head out here. Catella is right down the way. Walk. You've got a whole city street here, 6 lanes of traffic, not owned by Disney, separating us from the Eastern Gateway. Normally you could take this walk down Catella and make a right on Harbor to go to the park. We're going to cut through the Garden Walk to show you just how big a space this is, and talk a minute while we're here about Garden Walk and its potential as a place for Disney to expand. It has been a subject of conversation for a long time. People have said, why doesn't Disney just buy the Garden Walk? Well, they have had opportunities to do that. They have had a couple of opportunities to buy Garden Walk, and they chose not to. It has been put up for sale several times, and they didn't buy it, and they could have easily. Not to mention the fact that the Garden Walk has certain, as I understand it, I don't know if the word is easements or restrictions or requirements, but whosoever owns this property is required to also maintain or keep hotels. That is the JW Marriott right there on the other side of the Garden Walk here. That property, that hotel is on property owned by the owners of Garden Walk, as I understand it. So I'm not sure that Disney wants to be in business where they have to maintain a third-party hotel on a piece of property that they own. That could be one of the reasons why they have chosen not to try to take over this space. And it's a shame, too, that Disney can't or won't purchase this property, because it is one of the saddest places, one of the saddest slices of real estate, of retail space. It's a fully functioning outdoor mall, right? But there's nobody ever here. I can't remember the last time I've been here when there was any kind of presence of crowds. It is the middle of the afternoon right now. It is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There should be at least a few people here, right? All the restaurants are open. The shops are open, I think. But there's nothing happening here. The only thing that ever happens here is at the House of Blues and perhaps at Bolero. So that was a just over 4-minute walk to go end to end. We have now reached the end of Gardenwalk, and on the other side of the street right here, that is the lot that is the eventual home, or part of the eventual home, of the Eastern Gateway, or what would be. That's a healthy walk, 4 minutes plus. I don't know what that is in miles or distance, but it felt like about a half a mile, I'd say. We are now on Disney Way, the street that connects Toy Story. The Toy Story buses travel this direction and head into the park, Disney Way and Harbor Boulevard. And we're walking parallel to this path here. If you've ever seen the animatic that Disney created for the Eastern Gateway project many, many years ago, and you see those humanoids walking down the path, this is approximately where you see them walking initially. They reach the end of the Grand Legacy here, that hotel, and they would make a left in that animatic. They make a left towards, there'd be a huge parking structure right there, and then beyond that, as you keep going in that direction, the hub, the gateway where the guests would, all collect, kind of like where you have Mickey and Friends parking structure now, where Mickey and Friends and Pixar Pals meet and you go to bag check. They would collect there and then walk a path down this route that would connect to Harbor Boulevard, to which I will take you next. Along the way, let me remind everybody, I neglected to add that in addition to the Hotel Gardenwalk having certain requirements as part of their ownership, it's not a very big space, really, when you think about it, especially when you consider that it's bordered by a bunch of hotels, the Anaheim Hotel in this shot, and then a few others down the way as you travel down Harbor Boulevard. Those are independently owned. Disney would have no access to those lots either. So it's not like the Castle Inn. It's not like you could just drop theme park in there or really anything besides what is already here. It just does not seem at all. The Gardenwalk is about the only thing you can build here, I guess is what I'm saying, or more hotels, I suppose, or parking. I don't know, but it's not maybe that is a place where if they did buy it, they would turn it into a parking lot and then let Toy Story become whatever it's destined to be as part of Disneyland Forward. But again, that ignores the commitments that are necessary for, like the JW Marriott, the hotels that are on that lot now. There has to be a commitment there, and they can't just turn the Gardenwalk into a parking lot, I don't think. And as we make our right turn and now on Harbor Boulevard, this stretch of hotels and commercial businesses, well, restaurants, etc. This stretch, as we approach the entrance to Disneyland and a little bit past that, is the entire problem with the Eastern Gateway. This stretch of businesses here is the reason why the Eastern Gateway wasn't built however many, 7, 8, 10 years ago. I mentioned that Disney had planned to build a path that would connect the parking structure to the Disneyland Resort on the other side of Harbor. That path is right here. They even went so far as to tear down this. There was a hotel right here. They bought it, tore it down, and this is where guests were going to connect. Way back there where those cars are parked is the eventual spot where the gateway was going to be, or the hub, and they were going to send guests in this direction, and they were going to build a bridge over Harbor Boulevard. And it was that bridge that was the objection of all these businesses that I referenced earlier that are on Harbor Boulevard that exist here to serve the Disneyland Resort. All these hotels, all these restaurants, you build that bridge, they said, and we're out of business. Because what purpose do they have if you cannot, if you have to go back to the other side of the building in order to get into the park, because they were going to close, the bubble was going to be on the other side of these hotels. So let's just say this particular hotel right now, the Tropicana, let's just say that remains in existence. Guests staying at the Tropicana who wish to go to Disneyland couldn't just cross the street right here. This would be closed. They would have had to go back all the way to the other side, probably go around, mind you. They'd have to go all the way around to the direction we just came, make a left at Catella, go down that walkway, go through the bag check from there, and then cross the bridge. And I would agree, that's really, really bad for business. That reduces the amount of foot traffic you get here on the streets, especially for the restaurants, the hotels. Maybe they could find a way to get those guests on the other side of the property. I don't know, but the restaurants would certainly suffer greatly. So that's the reason why they all voiced their opinion. The whole project got canceled, and then Disney wound up buying, or building, I should say, the Pixar Palace parking structure instead. Fast forward to today, and Disney is once again in the Eastern Gateway business, because I don't know if you've figured it out by now or have heard any of us mention this in past videos. You cannot develop on the Toy Story lot, on the downtown Disney parking lot, the Disneyland Hotel parking lot, and the Simba parking lot. You cannot develop those spots, turn them into theme park, and not rehome all of those vehicles. Those vehicles have to park somewhere. So obviously that's going to have to be the Eastern Gateway. So logically speaking, it's the Eastern Gateway that is the actual key to all of this. They have to build that first even, or at least close to it. I can see that you could probably close the downtown Disney lot and the Disneyland Hotel lots without it affecting guest traffic too much, guest parking. That pedestrian bridge would connect right about where those buses are and run, it would start to deliver guests down to the ground and run parallel, close to it anyway, to that monorail track, and they would enter the park along that route. But I have to wonder, even with the approval from the city of Anaheim, I have to wonder, because they approved the first project as far as I understand, Eastern Gateway, I have to wonder if even still with that approval, can Disney build a bridge or some, even if it has access to the street, can they do that? Can they build a bridge from the Eastern Gateway on the other side of Harbor, connect it over here and send it into the Harbor entrance? But if they could build a bridge and connect that, that would remove the need for this lot right here where the buses and the drop-off area here, this hub, this transportation hub, and that would allow for more expansion. This hub would move to the other side of Harbor Boulevard. That would become part of the gateway that exists on that end. Buses, everything. They would send all the guests here. This would be inside the bubble. We would be inside the bubble right now if they moved bag check to that side. Actually, one of the possibilities that I heard in order to overcome the problem with the bridge on Harbor is to not put the bubble on that side. Put the parking structure there. Hi guys. Put the parking structure there, but leave the bubble on this side. That way you can have guests able to get on and off the bridge that connects the Eastern Gateway to this lot. But this would allow for a little more expansion. You could, the Hollywood back lot is just on the other side of that wall right there, Monsters Inc. It would allow for them to do something in addition, make a proper land out of that space. It's not a lot of space. You couldn't build a land here, not by any stretch. But it would at least make the back lot a proper sized land itself. I understand, I get the arguments being made by the businesses, but I just feel like there has to have been some sort of accommodation, some sort of workaround. It's very difficult to get this to work right, no matter what they do, but I don't believe that they would have gone as far as they did, getting the approval from the city of Anaheim, and those businesses would have been involved in that as well. Obviously, they're the ones, they had enough pull, enough weight to cancel the first deal. They could just as easily do the same here, right? So some kind of accommodation had to have been made, and it's very likely that it could be what I just mentioned, that they would move the bag check, the bubble, I should say they would leave it here and not move the bubble back to the Eastern Gateway side, the harbor side of the parking area. That seems to be the most logical. They would still build the bridge. I hope it does work out, because Disneyland Forward can't happen without accommodating those vehicles that would have parked at Toy Story, Downtown Disney, Disneyland Hotel, and Simba parking lot. Which brings us to the last part of our exploration of the truth, of the reality of Disneyland Forward. Just how real is it? What is real? What isn't? I give to you the biggest mystery out of all of this, and something that I haven't heard anybody talk about yet. And it took me a while to even realize it. What is going on in this space right here? That is neither the Simba parking lot or the downtown Disney parking lot. It's not any kind of parking lot at all. It's downtown Disney. That spot in the concept art is where I'm standing right now. I just can't figure that. I can't figure that. I want to know how all of this works together, because they have been going through considerable time and expense to build this new space that is absolutely positively not going anywhere. It is permanent and 100% going to be part of the downtown Disney future for a long time to come. But this concept art does not in any way give me the idea or give me the sense that it's not being considered theme park in here. Now again, concept art, right? I get it, but there's no definition, there's no creation, there's no separation that I can tell from, the Simba Lot, and it's just kind of bleeding into, it's flowing into that space. Same thing on the other side with the downtown Disney and Disneyland Hotel sections. It's just sort of bleeding and flowing into this space. They are, for all intents and purposes, according to this concept art, connecting those two places together. The Simba Lot is, 500 yards from here on the other side of that covered area. That's the new back check that they're building there. Good 500 yards over there. The downtown Disney lot, you can see the structure right there, the entrance structure. The back check is about 300 yards from where we stand now on the other side of, Rainforest Cafe and the ESPN zone. Then assume that they're not making this theme park space. This because they simply can't. They've already committed to this being downtown Disney, but so we'll assume it's not. Are they then going to make some sort of possibility to allow guests to park hop from the Simba Lot, the DCA expansion, to the downtown Disney lot, the Disneyland expansion? Will guests be able to park hop from here in the same way they can park hop at the Esplanade? They're about the same distance apart in that sense. How do you that means you have to create, I don't know how you do that. We're still in the bubble, so you don't have to create another bag check, but you would have to create another entranceway. And that is actually a very interesting conversation, because that was a huge deal for Walt. One way in. There was supposed to be just one way in to Disneyland, and that's the main entrance. You've got a huge park, but there's only one way in, and that was done by design. That was done with intent. He had a reason for that, because it's supposed to be momentous and exceptional. Now, I'll give you that the monorail is an alternative, but it's not the same thing. And it's actually one of the reasons, though, why I don't like taking the monorail in, because I like to respect Walt's desires and his plans and everything. But, there is that. Plus, and then DCA has the Grand Californian entrance, but I hardly count that. This would be a proper second entrance, not just not a special one like the monorail or a special one like the Grand Californian. There would be a rope drop here and everything. Ay. I don't know how they're going to do that. They have to cancel the whole project. It's either that, or you send all those guests all the way down to the Esplanade from here, or actually from inside the park. You don't send them from here, but they would reach the dead end. They would reach a dead end at the Disneyland Hotel, where the new theme park would dead end there, and then you'd have to send them all the way back, which I guess you're already doing. If you're in Galaxy's Edge, you have to come back out. Maybe that is the solution to all of this. But considering that possible solution, I'm still wondering how it was that they very clearly thought that this was going to be theme park space. All you have to do is look at the other materials that came with the concept art, the map, the zoning map that they drew. They literally put Wakanda right here, where we stand right now, is going to be, or would be, Wakanda, pretty much, according to this little piece of art, which again, concept art, I understand, but that's not downtown Disney. That is theme park. And that's Disneyland Forward, you guys. We're standing here at the top of the Pixar Palace parking structure, looking at the downtown Disney lot, wondering just what they have in store. It's kind of pointless to try to figure out what exactly in terms of IP or what kind of rides, but we can kind of guess what is possible, at least what their ideas could be. What are they capable of doing? 2 to 3 lands each at Simba Lot, and then here at the downtown Disney or Disneyland Hotel parking lots. 5-6 lands at Toy Story if they choose to go more theme park there. A third gate, maybe, but I doubt it. Most likely what we're seeing, the concept art is about what it is, but it's actually considerably less than what our eyes tell us it is. And then everything hinges on the Eastern Gateway. And if they can't get that figured out, then we've got a long road ahead to getting any kind of expansion done here at the Disneyland Resort. Disneyland Forward will keep being somewhere in the future. With that, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this show, I'm going to show you support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. You can follow us on Instagram at _freshbaked, on Twitter at freshbakedizzy, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at Fresh Baked Disney. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Baked.